Snow was falling without mercy that evening. The forest of Northridge looked like a frozen painting, trees covered in thick white, the air heavy with mist, and the sky dark like a closed door. The only sound came from the steady swing of an axe. Elias Rowan, a middle-aged woodcutter with rough hands and quiet eyes, worked alone as always. His cabin was an hour's walk away, and his only company was the crackling of his lantern fire. Life had taught him to love silence. It was safer that way. The world had changed since the human-alien accord collapsed. People who helped aliens were branded as traitors. But Elias didn't care for politics. He just wanted to survive the winter. He swung the axe once more and the log split cleanly in two. He wiped the sweat off his forehead even though the air was freezing. The cold bit into his skin, but he was used to it. He had lived through worse storms. Then, through the wind, he heard something, faint, fragile, like the cry of a wounded animal. He paused, listening. It came again, this time clearer, a soft, trembling voice. "Please, help." Elias turned around sharply. No one ever came this deep into the forest. He raised his lantern higher and scanned the trees. The light barely touched the dark shadows, but he caught a glimpse. Two small shapes half buried in the snow. Curiosity pushed him closer, his boots crunching over the ice. When he finally reached the spot, his breath froze in his chest. They weren't human. Two small alien children, maybe 10 years old, huddled together beneath a broken metallic sheet. Their skin shimmered faintly silver blue, and their eyes were large, round, and almost glowing. The twins, one boy, one girl, were shivering so violently their teeth clattered. Their thin clothes were soaked and torn, and frost clung to their hair. For a long second, Elias could only stare. He had seen pictures of aliens on news screens, but never this close. People said aliens were dangerous, heartless creatures that brought war to Earth, but these two looked like lost children, terrified, weak, and barely alive. "Please," the girl whispered, her voice cracking. "Warmth?" Elias's heart twisted. He looked around quickly. The forest was quiet, but he knew what this meant. If patrol drones caught him helping aliens, he could be executed on sight. Humans were forbidden to assist off-worlders since the Accord breach. Still, he couldn't just walk away. He knelt down beside them. "You'll freeze out here," he muttered, pulling off his thick fur coat. The girl tried to speak again, but coughed weakly instead. Elias wrapped his coat around them both, his rough hands trembling slightly. "What happened to you?" he asked, but neither of them answered. Their eyes flickered with fear, and then the boy raised a small, trembling hand, pointing toward the dark sky. Elias followed his gaze. A faint blue light flashed far above the tree line, then another, moving fast. Drones. Search units. He cursed under his breath. The military must be scanning the area. That meant these children weren't just lost, they were running. The girl spoke again, her voice a whisper of panic. "They're coming." Elias felt his chest tighten. He had a choice, leave them and live or help them and die. The law was clear, but his heart wasn't. Without another word, he lifted the boy into his arms and motioned for the girl to follow. "Come on, we move now," he said. The twins looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Why, help us?" the boy asked weakly. Elias didn't answer. He just muttered, "Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." They stumbled through the forest, snow crunching under their feet. The lantern light flickered as the wind howled through the trees. Every few seconds, Elias looked back, his eyes scanning for blue glows in the mist. After several long minutes, they reached a narrow path leading to a wooden cabin hidden among the rocks. Smoke still rose faintly from its chimney. He pushed open the door, hurried them inside, and bolted it shut behind them. The cabin was small but warm. A fireplace burned near the corner, and a pot of water simmered above it. Elias gently set the boy down near the fire, while the girl crouched close, holding her brother's hand. He grabbed a blanket from the shelf and wrapped it around them. "You're safe here," he said softly. "At least for now." The twins exchanged a look, whispering in a language Elias couldn't understand. Then the girl spoke, her voice trembling. "Our ship crashed. Fire everywhere. We ran. We ran until we found your light." Elias stared at them, trying to process what he heard. "A crash? How far?" "Not far," she replied. "In the valley. Hunters came. They killed our people." The word hunters chilled him more than the storm outside. Everyone had heard rumors about them. Human bounty teams sent to capture or kill surviving aliens for money and favor. He didn't want to believe it, but now two frightened children sat right in front of him, proving it was true. He poured warm water into a cup and handed it to the boy. The child tried to lift it, but his hands were shaking too hard. Elias held it steady for him, letting him sip slowly. "What are your names?" Elias asked quietly. The girl hesitated. "Rin," she said finally, then pointed to her brother. "Lyra," he nodded. "All right, Rin. Lyra. I'm Elias. You can rest here for the night, but we have to stay quiet. Understand?" Rin nodded, her silver eyes full of exhaustion and trust. Lyra leaned against her shoulder, already half asleep. Elias sat back, staring into the fire. His thoughts spun like snowflakes in a storm. He'd broken the law just by letting them in. If anyone found out, he'd be hanged or worse. But as he looked at the small shapes by the fire, he knew he couldn't turn them out. Then suddenly, a loud metallic hum broke the silence. The cabin windows glowed faintly blue for an instant. Elias jumped to his feet, heart pounding. Outside, search drones were passing overhead, scanning for heat signatures. Their lights sliced through the falling snow, moving dangerously close. He quickly ran to the window and pulled down the wooden shutters. Then he turned to the twins, who were staring at him in fear. "Not a sound," he whispered. Not one. The drones hovered near the cabin, their engines humming low and menacing. Elias could hear the mechanical voice of the patrol bot outside. "Unauthorized heat detected. Scanning perimeter." He held his breath. The firelight flickered. Sweat dripped down his temple despite the cold. After what felt like forever, the hum faded. The drones moved away into the distance, their blue lights disappearing behind the trees. Elias finally exhaled. "That was close," he muttered. He turned to see Rin trembling again. Not from cold this time, but fear. "They'll come back," she whispered. "They always come back." He looked at the two of them, small, fragile, and alone, and felt something heavy inside his chest shift. He had lost his own daughter years ago during the first alien wars. Maybe that was why he couldn't abandon them now. He knelt beside them. "Then we'll make sure they find nothing," he said firmly. "You two stay here. Don't touch the door. I'll make the place look empty." Elias stepped outside briefly, covering footprints in the snow and throwing old logs across the path. The storm was getting worse, the wind slicing against his skin. But as he worked, a strange feeling came over him, a sense that something larger was beginning. When he returned inside, the twins were asleep, curled close together by the fire. Their silver skin reflected the glow like moonlight. For a moment, they didn't look alien at all, just two lost children who wanted to live. Elias sat by the window, watching the snow fall through the cracks. Somewhere out there, machines hunted these kids, and maybe tomorrow they'd hunt him too. But for tonight, he'd made his choice. He'd given warmth to the cold, even if it cost him everything. Outside, the forest whispered in the storm. Inside, the fire kept burning, quiet, steady, defiant. The next morning arrived quietly, wrapped in white silence. Snow covered everything outside the cabin, trees, logs, and even the roof itself. The storm had passed, but the world still looked frozen in time. Elias sat by the window, watching the cold light of dawn filter through the cracks. The fire had burned low, its glow soft and orange. He hadn't slept all night. Every sound made him flinch, every gust of wind, every crack in the wood. He knew the drones would come back. Behind him, the alien twins were still asleep. Rin had wrapped herself protectively around her brother Lyra, as if shielding him from the world. Their breathing was slow, calm, and almost human. Elias couldn't help but study them. Their skin shimmered faintly, catching the light like a mirror. He noticed small symbols etched into their wrists, tiny glowing marks like digital tattoos. He wondered what they meant. When Rin woke, she looked startled for a moment, as if forgetting where she was. Then she saw Elias and relaxed a little. "The fire. Thank you," she said softly. Elias nodded. "You're welcome. Hungry?" She hesitated, then nodded. He opened a small metal box and took out a few dry biscuits and some salted meat. The twins sniffed it carefully, then ate slowly, unsure but grateful. "You two really aren't from here, are you?" Elias asked, keeping his voice calm. Rin looked at her brother before answering. "No. Our ship came from the colonies beyond Mars. We were trying to reach the southern mountains to hide, but the hunters found us first." Elias frowned. "Hunters? You said that last night. You mean soldiers?" Rin shook her head. "No, worse. Humans who hunt our kind for reward credits. They bring our tech to your cities. Sell it for money." Elias looked down at his hands. "Figures," he muttered bitterly. Money changes everything, even mercy. Lyra spoke for the first time that morning. His voice was small, fragile. Are you going to tell them we are here? Elias turned to face him. If I wanted to, I already would have. But you two shouldn't be here. It's dangerous for both of us. Rin's eyes glowed slightly, reflecting the firelight. We didn't want to come. We had nowhere else. You were the only one with light. Those words hit him harder than he expected. The only one with light. He'd built that lantern to keep himself company, never imagining it would guide someone else through the dark. He sighed, rubbing his face. All right. You stay until it's safe, then I'll help you find a way out. Rin smiled weakly. Humans are strange, she whispered. Your people hurt us, but you help us. Elias didn't answer. He just poked the fire with a stick, watching sparks rise into the air. Hours passed quietly. The twins explored the small cabin with innocent curiosity, touching the wooden walls, examining his axe, peeking at old photos on the shelf. One picture showed a young human girl smiling in front of the same cabin. Her eyes were bright, her smile wide. Who is she? Lyra asked softly. Elias froze for a moment. Then he said, my daughter. Her name was Elsie. Was? Rin asked carefully. He nodded, his voice heavy. She died during the first alien war. Your people bombed our cities. She didn't make it out. The twins fell silent. Lyra lowered his eyes. Rin whispered, I'm sorry. Elias exhaled slowly. Don't be. I've blamed enough faces I didn't know. Maybe it's time I stopped. Before anyone could speak again, a faint buzzing sound filled the air. Elias's instincts sharpened instantly. He moved to the window and peeked through a small gap. 2 black drones hovered above the trees, their red sensors scanning the ground. Down, he whispered sharply. Now. The twins quickly hid under the table as Elias threw a wool blanket over them. The drones came closer, humming louder. Then, without warning, a loud thud shook the cabin door. Someone was outside. Elias grabbed his axe and moved quietly to the door. His heart pounded. The knock came again, harder this time. Open up! Human patrol! A voice shouted. He swallowed. If he didn't open, they'd break in. If he did, the twins would be discovered. He looked at the floor where Rin and Lyra hid, their eyes wide with terror. He whispered, Don't move. Then he opened the door. 2 soldiers in heavy armor stood outside, their faces hidden behind helmets. Snow clung to their boots. One carried a plasma rifle, the other a scanning device glowing blue. Elias Rowan, one demanded. Yes, he replied, trying to sound calm. We're scanning the area for fugitives. 2 alien miners escaped last night after a crash nearby. You seen anything suspicious? Elias shook his head slowly. No, sir. Haven't seen a soul in days. The soldier with the scanner stepped forward. We detected heat signatures last night near this location. Mind if we check inside? Elias's throat went dry. It's just me here, he said. Cabin's small, nothing to see. The soldier ignored him and pushed past, sweeping the scanner across the room. Blue light flickered over every surface. Elias stood still, forcing his breathing to remain steady. When the scanner beam reached the floor near the table, it beeped faintly. The soldier paused. What's this? Elias's fingers tightened on his axe handle. Probably the fire pit, he said quickly. Been burning all night. Gives false readings. The soldier frowned, lowering his scanner. We'll take a quick look. He stepped toward the table. In that instant, Lyra coughed, softly but enough. The soldier froze. What was that? Elias acted before he could think. He swung the axe downward, slamming it into the wooden floor just inches from the soldier's boot. Sparks flew. That was me, he growled. Floor creaks when it's cold. You done here? The soldier stepped back, glaring. Watch yourself, woodcutter. Interfering with patrol duty is a federal crime. Elias met his visor with a cold stare. So is barging into a man's home without reason. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Finally, the soldiers turned toward the door. We'll be watching you, one said. If you see anything, report it. You don't want to end up like the others. When they left, Elias stood frozen until their steps faded into the snow. Then he closed the door, locking it tight, and exhaled shakily. Under the table, the twins were trembling. Rin's eyes were wet. You saved us, she whispered. Elias forced a smile. Let's just say I'm not a fan of uninvited guests. That night, the storm returned. Winds howled around the cabin like a beast. Elias sat near the fire, sharpening his axe while the twins slept again, this time under heavy blankets. He couldn't sleep. His mind was a storm too. The soldiers would come back, and next time they might not ask nicely. He needed to think fast. When the fire dimmed, he noticed something strange. Lyra's wristband glowing again, pulsing faintly in rhythm with his heartbeat. It wasn't just decoration. It was technology far beyond human design. He whispered, "Rin, what is that thing?" She opened her eyes slowly. "Our life bond," she said. "It keeps us alive when our homeworld's air is gone. But it also sends signals." Elias frowned. "Signals to who?" "Anyone still looking for us," she said. "Maybe our people. Maybe the hunters. We can't be sure." Elias stared at the faint glow, realizing the danger. "Then we need to move before morning." Rin looked at him, confused. "Move? Where?" "There's an old logging tunnel north of here," he explained. "Abandoned for years. It leads under the ridge. If we make it before sunrise, maybe we can lose them." She nodded slowly, trusting him without question. "You'd do that for us?" Elias looked at the fire and said softly, "I already did more than I should have. Might as well see it through." Rin smiled faintly. "Humans are strange," she repeated. He smiled back. "Yeah, we are." Outside, snow began to fall again, thick and endless. The forest slept under its white blanket. But inside that small wooden cabin, 3 souls, 2 alien and 1 human, were preparing to defy an entire world. Elias didn't know what waited beyond the ridge. But deep down he felt something he hadn't felt in years, purpose. As the fire flickered lower, he whispered to himself, "If warmth can melt the cold, maybe kindness can melt hate too." The wind screamed through the forest that night, carrying snow like white knives. Inside the cabin, Elias tightened the straps on an old backpack. His axe was slung across his shoulder, and a lantern swung from a nail above the door. Rin and Lyra watched him nervously from near the fire. "Are we leaving now?" Rin asked. Elias nodded. "Before sunrise. The patrols will come back once daylight breaks." He looked at them. 2 small figures wrapped in blankets too large for their thin frames. He still didn't know why he cared so much, but something deep inside him refused to let them die out here. Maybe because he had failed to save someone once. Maybe because he saw a little of Elsie, his daughter, in their eyes. He checked the window again. The forest was quiet, but too quiet. Snow muffled every sound, hiding danger. "Keep close to me when we move," he said. "Step in my footprints so drones can't trace new tracks." Rin stood, her blue-silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "They'll kill you if they find out." Elias gave a dry smile. "They'll kill you first. I'm just an old woodcutter with nothing left to lose." They left before dawn. The storm had weakened, but the cold was sharp enough to bite skin. The moon hung low, half hidden behind drifting clouds. Elias led the way through narrow paths between the frozen trees. His lantern threw long shadows that danced like ghosts. For hours they walked in silence. The twins' small feet sank into the snow with soft crunches. Every so often, Rin looked behind, afraid of shapes moving in the mist. Elias's instincts told him they were being followed, though he couldn't see by whom. At last they reached a deep gorge where a broken wooden bridge crossed a river of ice. The entrance to the old logging tunnel lay beyond it, a dark mouth carved into stone. "There," Elias said, pointing. "Once inside we can rest. No drones will find you underground." They started across the bridge carefully. The wood groaned under their weight. Halfway through, a sharp sound split the silence, a mechanical whir from behind. Elias turned. 3 black drones emerged from the trees, red eyes glowing. "Run," he shouted. Blue beams fired, slicing through the ropes. The bridge shook violently. Elias grabbed Lyra's arm and pushed him forward. The boy leapt just as the boards behind them exploded in sparks. The bridge collapsed. Elias and the twins tumbled onto the snow at the far side, coughing and gasping. The drones hovered above the chasm, scanning, then turned away to report. "They'll call soldiers," Elias said, helping the twins stand. "We've got minutes." They hurried into the tunnel. Inside, the air was damp and cold. Faded signs still hung on rusted walls. Broken mining carts lay on their sides. Elias lit a torch from his lantern and led them deeper until the outside light disappeared completely. Rin's wristbands glowed softly, casting pale light on the tunnel walls. "It feels sad here," she murmured. Elias grunted. "It used to be full of life. Men worked here every day. Then the company shut it down after the ore ran dry. That was before the wars." They reached a wider chamber. Old tools and wooden crates littered the ground. Elias stopped, placing his backpack down. "We rest here," he said. But quietly, Lyra sat on a rock, shivering. "Why do your people hate us so much?" he asked suddenly. "We never wanted to fight." Elias looked at the boy. "Fear, that's the answer. People fear what they don't understand. And fear turns to hate when someone powerful needs a reason for war." Rin tilted her head. "Then why don't you fear us?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe I used up all my fear years ago." They almost laughed, but then a faint echo reached them. Footsteps. Elias's blood ran cold. "Hide now." The twins slipped behind a fallen cart while Elias snuffed the torch. The tunnel filled with darkness. The footsteps grew louder, metal boots against stone. Voices followed. "Thermal trace stops here. Search every chamber. Orders are to bring the aliens alive. The human dead or breathing doesn't matter." Rin clutched Lyra's hand tightly. Elias crouched near the entrance, gripping his axe. He could see the glow of scanners sweeping through the dark. Soldiers, at least 4 of them, entered with weapons ready. One of them kicked a crate aside. "They're close," he said. Elias's mind raced. He couldn't fight 4 trained men with 1 axe. But if he didn't, the twins would die. He took a deep breath, then smashed his lantern against the wall. The oil ignited instantly, lighting the tunnel in a burst of fire. Flames roared upward, blinding the soldiers. Elias charged through the smoke with a shout, swinging his axe. The first soldier fell with a cry. His rifle clattered to the ground. The second fired, a plasma bolt grazing Elias's arm. Pain flared white-hot, but he kept moving. "Run!" he shouted at the twins. Rin grabbed Lyra and sprinted toward the far exit. The tunnel shook with gunfire. Elias swung again, hitting another soldier's visor. Sparks flew. The man collapsed. But there were still 2 more. He grabbed the dropped rifle and fired blindly. Blue energy bolts tore through the tunnel walls. The soldiers ducked for cover. Rin reached the exit, panting. "Elias!" she screamed. He turned toward her voice, then a plasma shot hit his side. He fell to one knee. The soldier aimed again, sneering. "Should have stayed out of it, human." Before he could pull the trigger, a flash of blue light burst from behind. Lyra's wristband flared bright, projecting a shimmering shield that deflected the blast back at the attacker. The soldier screamed as his weapon exploded. Elias blinked in shock. "What? How?" Rin grabbed his arm. "No time, come." They stumbled out of the tunnel into the open snowfield beyond. The dawn light was rising, painting the sky red and gold. Behind them, smoke poured from the tunnel mouth. Elias fell to his knees, clutching his wound. Blood stained the snow dark. "Go," he said weakly. "They'll keep coming." But Rin shook her head fiercely. "We don't leave those who give us warmth." Lyra touched his wrist. His small hand was glowing brighter now. The same light spread to Rin's wristband, linking them in a web of blue energy. The air around them began to hum. "What's happening?" Elias whispered. "Our beacon," Rin said. "You saved us. We send for rescue now." The hum grew louder, vibrating through the ground. Above them, clouds parted as a blinding beam of light descended from the sky. A massive ship appeared, smooth, silver, and silent. Its presence filled the air like thunder. The few surviving soldiers stumbled out of the tunnel, pointing their weapons upward in terror. The ship released a wave of blue light that melted their rifles and silenced their screams. The craft hovered lower. A door opened and a soft voice echoed from within. "Rin, Lyra, come home." Tears filled Rin's eyes. She looked at Elias. "Come with us." He shook his head slowly. "My place is here. But you'll die if you stay," she pleaded. He smiled faintly, eyes tired but warm. "Maybe. But I've already lived longer than I deserved. Go. Don't waste what I gave you." Rin hesitated, then leaned forward and pressed her glowing wristband against his palm. The light left a faint mark, a blue scar shaped like a circle. "So you'll never be forgotten," she whispered. The twins stepped into the beam and vanished into the ship. It rose silently, cutting through the clouds until it disappeared into the dawn. Elias sat in the snow watching the sky. The warmth from the mark on his hand spread through his body, easing the pain. Around him, the snow began to melt slowly, as if spring had touched the frozen forest. He closed his eyes, whispering to no one. Guess kindness still means something after all. When search teams arrived hours later, they found the tunnel burned, the soldiers gone, and the old woodcutter's cabin reduced to ash. But in the clearing where he'd once lived, the snow refused to settle again. The ground stayed warm, as if the fire inside that man's heart still burned beneath the earth. And far above, among the stars, two alien twins told their people of a human who gave warmth when the galaxy had none.